Good Thursday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Allivo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Under cloudy skies, I've got 40 degrees on the barn thermometer. Now, reports from the field say harvest is wrapping up all across the Buckeye State. It does sound like there have been some challenges, though, recently getting those double crop soybeans to dry down and run smoothly through the combine the last couple days. This quick calendar reminder, the Jackson County Regional Livestock Market will have a bred cow sale coming up tomorrow. That's Friday, November the 21st at 6 o'clock p.m. Visit jcrlm.com, your livestock authority. Well, let's get a check now on your weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council. Joining me today is Dr. Laura Lindsay, OSU Extension soybean and small grain specialist. And Laura, as you take a look, I know with Battle of the Belt, a lot of research done on planting date and which to plant first. This year, did it seem like soybeans benefited from that earlier planting date across the board, or not necessarily?
Yeah, our data is still rolling in. Corn's still out there. We're not completely harvested on the Battle for the Belt on the corn side. Soybean, though, we planted as early as March 27th in Wood County, and there was a small yield penalty of about 5 bushels compared to a mid-April planting date. But then going into those later planting dates, there were quite a bit of a yield reduction compared to that mid-April date. And only 5 bushels on that March 27th side, but extremely low plant populations when we plant that early. So planting date seemed really important in Northwest Ohio in particular this year, and right around that mid-April seemed to be the ideal time.
Very interesting. Again, my guest today is Dr. Laura Lindsay, OSU Extension soybean and small grain specialist, taking a look back at this past growing season and some of the yield results. Dr. Lindsay, thanks so much for your time today.
Yep, thank you.
And today's update is brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. It's time now to take a look at our Thursday morning weather forecast. The forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
Mostly dry weather in charge for most of your Thursday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. We do have some moisture trying to head towards us. It's going to take a little bit to get here. For your Thursday today, partly to mostly sunny skies over most of the state. Southwest Ohio starts to see clouds increase as we move through the evening and overnight. Scattered rain showers moving into southern tier counties of Ohio right away tomorrow morning, and then slowly but surely we see the action build all the way up to I-70 through the daytime hours, through the overnight tomorrow night, and probably lingering through mid-morning on Saturday. Moisture totals aren't huge. I'm going to say 1/10 to 1/2 inch for the most part. Maybe we see some 3/4 inch totals just near or south of the Ohio River. But that also means I-70 northward, we've got nothing. Mixed clouds and sunshine, not just here for today, but right on through tomorrow and into Saturday. Everybody turns out partly to mostly sunny, warm, and dry for Sunday, and we stay that way through Monday and most of Tuesday next week. Tuesday, clouds increase with rain showers moving in evening, overnight, and into early Wednesday. Right now, I'm going to say 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch out of that coverage in 95% of the Buckeye State. We follow it up with a significant surge of cold Canadian air. Right away, it comes in mostly dry, but with the winds north and west, we can see some decent lake effect try and pop up as we move through the later stages of the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. I'm looking mostly at Friday the 28th, Saturday the 29th, and then we see reinforcing shots of moisture come in for Sunday the 30th. And again, more moisture for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December. Very active period starting to unfold as we kick off the new month. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Well, fed cattle carcass weight's making agricultural headlines. Now, with the government back online, the weekly actual slaughter under federal inspection data was released and shared, and there are some numbers that may be of concern. For the week ending November 1st, now, the report runs 2 weeks behind schedule. The dress steers averaged 983 pounds. That's a new all-time high for the industry, surpassing the weights in 2020 during the COVID shutdown. To put this new milestone into perspective, for the same week a year ago, the steers averaged 958 pounds. That's 25 pounds less than they are today. And compared to 2 years ago, they were averaging 927 pounds. That's 56 pounds less. Compared to 2020, when fed cattle supplies were backed up because of COVID and packing plant shutdowns, those fed steers were averaging 924 pounds. Again, 59 pounds less than they are today. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
When you're buying seed, there's more to a transaction than money. You're exchanging time and trust, hoping each decision adds up at harvest. Seed consultant sales professionals don't take that lightly. With products made to excel in the Eastern Corn Belt and agronomic knowledge that stands up to the test, we're all about the same things you are: reliability and results. Buy into a better seed experience. Visit seedconsultants.com to view our corn and soybean lineup.
Nearly 90% of farmers say that financial worries, constantly changing market conditions, and other uncontrollable variables take a toll on their mental well-being. Add in the weather and family dynamics, well, it's a lot to handle alone. But did you know farmers and their families can receive free confidential services from licensed professionals? Support is available 24/7 to help with the challenges you face. Look for Farm Family Wellness Alliance under the Resources tab at farmfoundation.org. Take care of yourself. Your well-being matters.
Well, waters of the United States making agricultural headlines again. Let's check in with Hunter Ehrman. He's Senior Director for Policy and Communications with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. He is joined by Mary Thomas Hart. She's National Cattlemen's Beef Association Chief Counsel, giving some perspectives on the new proposed WOTUS rule from the EPA.
Mary Thomas, the EPA is out with a new proposed Waters of the U.S. rule. What can you tell us about this?
Thanks for having me on, Hunter. And yes, it is once again WOTUS week. So, coming into the new administration, we kind of urged EPA to let WOTUS lie, focus on other priorities. But we said, if you're going to rewrite the WOTUS rule, if you're going to give us a new definition of WOTUS, make it really good. And certainly EPA delivered on that promise. So today we saw an announcement of a new proposed WOTUS definition that very nearly follows NCBA's exact recommendations, not only to EPA and prior administrations, but also to the Supreme Court in our amicus brief written in 2023.
Mary Thomas, what are some ways that the new proposed WOTUS rule protects cattle producers from federal overreach?
I think it's important to start with the Sackett decision that we got from the Supreme Court pretty recently that put EPA in a much smaller box when it comes to federally or asserting federal jurisdiction over waters and water bodies and wetlands across the United States. The unfortunate part of that decision was that it was dropped during an administration that was maybe reluctant at best to follow it. So we had some kind of half-hearted attempts to implement that rule, and that was what we saw in the WOTUS definition that came out of the Biden administration. Fortunately, we have an administration that really saw that Supreme Court decision for what it was and worked really hard to put together a definition that balances protection of our nation's natural resources with protecting the interests of farmers and ranchers. So I think the most important thing that we see in this rule is an attempt or an effort to make sure that any landowner, not just a technical expert, not just an attorney, not just a wetland specialist, can go out, look at water features on their property, and at least make a preliminary determination about whether that feature is going to be subject to federal permitting. And they do that by requiring a two-part test or having a two-part test for potentially jurisdictional waters. Any jurisdictional water not only will have relatively permanent flow, but will also have physical features like beds and banks to indicate that it carries enough water to actually kind of make a mark on the land, right? So we want to make sure that we're not regulating every trickle, but we also want to make sure that we're regulating water that's flowing fairly continuously. And I think, with this rule, we're going to see every ephemeral out and most intermittent features out. So a water body has to be carrying water at least seasonally in order to be federally jurisdictional.
Again, those are the comments of National Cattlemen's Beef Association Chief Counsel Mary Thomas Hart. Well, fertilizer prices are also back in the news as the average retail fertilizer price continues to be mostly higher during November. Now, 6 nutrients were higher in price than they were a month ago. Those include DAP, which had an average price of $929 a ton, potash at $490 a ton, urea at $597 a ton, 1034 was $667 a ton, with anhydrous ammonia coming in at $857 a ton, and UAN 28 at $416 a ton. There were 2 fertilizers that were just slightly lower looking back a month. MAP had an average price of $930 a ton, and UAN 32 was at $465 a ton. Now, really, if we break these down into usable usable units and a price per pound unit nitrogen. The average urea price was 65 cents a pound unit nitrogen. Anhydrous was 52 cents a pound. UAN 28 came in at 74 cents a pound, and UAN 32 was 73 cents per pound. Now, all 8 major fertilizers that are tracked by DTN are higher in price than they were a year ago. 1034O is 10% more expensive. Potash is up 11%. MAP 15% higher. Urea is 20% more expensive, with anhydrous 21% more expensive. DAP is 26% higher. UAN 32 is up 28%. UAN 28 is up 29%. So again, as we take a look at what these prices are doing and what commodity prices are doing, a lot of concern looking to the future. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Attention farmers, a big part of the Keystone Cooperative Advantage is reinvesting in the business to better serve farmer members. That's why Keystone is partnered with Purple Wave for their December 10th agricultural auction featuring equipment in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Fine field-ready sprayers, rogators, and semis, all selling at absolute no reserve. This is your genuine opportunity to enhance your operation with quality machinery. Visit purplewave.com today. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
Taking a quick look at some of the top trending headlines at OhioAgNet.com, there's a 2026 Soil Health webinar series that's been scheduled. You can go online, check out the dates, and follow the link to get registered for that. Also, a great article by Vinyak Shedeker from Ohio State and Rajveer Dhillon from Central State University, taking a look at what kind of growing seasons are the worst for grain crops when it's too wet or too dry. They've got multiple years of data they've pulled together to share. And finally, nominations are now being accepted for the 2026 Certified Crop Advisor of the Year. That award sponsored by the Ohio CCA program. Nominations must be submitted by January the 15th. And again, all the details at OhioAgNet.com. It's time now for today's market analysis, brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC.
Grain markets finished sharply lower on Wednesday. The midweek session had corn down anywhere from 6 to 8 cents, beans down 11 to almost 18. Soybean meal was anywhere from $3 to $8 a ton lower. Bean oil off triple digits all the way through the curve. Wheat in Chicago down 9 to 11. Winter wheat in Kansas City down 10 to nearly 12, and Minneapolis wheat was lower as well. Livestock markets honestly didn't do much better yesterday. Live cattle and feeders down, but hogs did reverse and move up just a little bit. The grain declines yesterday came on EPA talk that President Trump may delay the imported RIN decision for a couple of years. Now, on the good news side of things, China did look at another 2 to 3 cargoes of U.S. beans. Let's go to that RVO SRE announcement first. Bulls need to be fed every day, according to the old traders acronym, but we didn't feed it yesterday at all. Following another 330,000 metric tons of bean sales to China, the market needed new demand, and instead we got the RVO SRE story that came out. The U.S. did produce last week 321 million gallons of ethanol, up 5 million gallons week on week, down 2% from last year. Stocks rose up 6 million gallons to 937 million gallons overall. Once again, that RIN story is probably the biggest one out there. Nothing is booked yet, but it does sound like we're going to be pushing off those RIN decisions, especially the imported part of that, for a couple of years. The reason why? Go figure. The energy industry was the one balking at doing it a little bit sooner. And so once again, agriculture is caught here in the crosshairs. There's still chances that this get worked out. Our farm state legislators are going to go to work on this, I'm sure. But there's a lot of uncertainty. And you know what? We already said the market bulls need to be fed every day. But also uncertainty is probably the biggest Achilles heel of any market. And that's what we've got on this RIN story right now. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look at how your market's closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com. December corn closed down 7 cents and March corn was down 8 cents. January soybeans closed the day down 17 1/4 cents and March soybeans were down 15 3/4. December Kansas City wheat closed down 10 3/4 cents, while December Chicago wheat was down 9 3/4, and December Minneapolis wheat closed down 1.5 pennies. Now in the overnight trade, December corn is down 1/4 penny at $4.30. January beans down down 3/4 penny at $11.35 and wheat for July, the new crop up 3/4 penny at $5.67 3/4. Well, thanks for joining us and have a great day. This is the Ohio AgNet.